we think this is like the best time to be an indie developer. And over on how to market a game, what are they calling it? The Great Convergence.
Yeah.
Because we were looking at games like
the Great Conjunction, I think.
The
alignment of what devs like to do, just make video games and not die from the process.
Yeah.
Players enjoying these smaller games, and the fact that this is like all coming together in a way where on Steam where they can be discovered, right?
Butterscotch. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 587 of Coffee with Butterscotch, the weekly podcast for indie game developers. I'm Seth and I'm the games programmer.
I'm Adam, the web developer. I'm Sam, an artist.
And we are Butterscotch Shenanigans. Today is August 21st, 2020 quick.
Yeah.
All right, so for today's episode, we are in a pensive mood. Since the launch of How Many Dudes, we have been just analyzing, thinking, looking at data, talking to other devs, talking to publishers who have data, reading all kinds of articles, looking through Steam every day, basically just trying to make sense of what has happened. Where the game did well, and we're very excited about how well it did.
It has done better than anything we've ever made, even though we made it in 10 months, which is its own confusing question mark, right?
And so, of course, but that opens up new questions, which is why? Why did it do well? And also, could it have done better even? Or under what scenario would it have done worse?
But there's also two parts. Is could it have done better? That's one question. And if there's a limit, is there a limit to how well it can do versus how well other things can do? And why are those limits different?
And why are those other things doing well or badly? These are all questions that nobody truly has an answer to, but we're trying to figure out if there are any kind of heuristics or ways of thinking about these things that will help us as we move forward into whatever we make next. So for starters, we did a big old postmortem of How Many Dudes, and we also compiled a 10,000 word blog post at blog.bscotch.net about the development timeline of How Many Dudes. We essentially were just taking notes the whole time we were making it, where anytime something noteworthy happened, we just jotted it down in a Notion document.
We'll have a link in the show notes to that blog post, so you don't have to go look for it.
It is 34 pages.
Yeah, in Google Docs. And so we kind of cleaned that up and trimmed it down somehow, and put it on our blog as just a sequential timeline of all the decisions that we made for How Many Dudes and why we did what we did, what happened, how we interpreted what happened, with links to things like all the different YouTube shorts that we made and the different iterations of trailer, and graphs and charts and just all kinds of.
Yeah, so if you're a long-time listener of the podcast, you'll have heard us, blather on in a non-constrained or designed way about each one of those things for the past year, right? But this is a nice way just to get it all in one place where we took a lot of effort to try to distill out like the parts that
what happened.
Yeah.
And we took inspiration from, because when we started working on How Many Dudes, we read the Balatro timeline. And it was extremely useful for us to get a sense of what that journey was like of making that game and kind of what the frame of mind was of the developer at the time and just why they did what they did, right?
That's that first question we had, right? Is why are some games successful? Are they hitting the limit of their success? And if they are, why are they managing to do that? And Balatro is one of those examples of a game that just absolutely crushed
every limit known to man.
Crushed everything, right? And that open question there is like, ultimately, to us, that was a surprise because it's a great game once you play it, right? But it feels really hard to sell a card game that's based off of cards, we would think. So that's where that gap is of like, okay, so we're wrong about something. What is it? How is that? How are we wrong? And so when people publish stuff like that, when they publish, well, here's, because that's the development story too, which I honestly don't care about. I care about the marketing story. What happened in the lead up? Like you started working on this game, you were telling people about it, I guess. When did people start getting interested, and how did you convert the stuff that was being made into what became, a game of the year game, right?
Yeah. And the idea is if you can kind of make a sense of some of these things, then it should help you make better decisions about what type of game to even make and kind of how to theme that game. You'll never actually know.
Yeah, there's no way to have it.
There's no way to know. And we've talked in the past about how even like when we saw, Valve release that game Artifact that just didn't go anywhere, right? And it's like Valve with all the data on Earth about every game that's ever sold.
Still have duds.
Yeah. So it's like you're just gonna have duds. The idea here is to try to get better on average at figuring out how to decide what to make and how to get it to market.
And it is also all a moving target too, right? Because as Steam changes how it shows games to people, as the appetite for kinds of games changes, as where people get their information changes, right? So even if miraculously someday we were like, hey, we found an answer, it's probably not going to last.
It'll apply maybe if we are correct somehow. It'll apply in the moment.
Yep. And then never again.
And then maybe never again, right?
Yeah. Like in our current analysis, which we're still in the middle of, so I won't go into too much of it, but the high level gist of it is that how many dudes kind of topped out in terms of what's possible for launch visibility on Steam for what it is, but and did exceptionally well in essentially the influencer space in pulling people to Steam to buy the game, but actually within Steam itself still doesn't sell as well as some of the other titles that are launching, like right now, other games that are of a comparable scale or something like that. Through Steam itself, as in like when Steam shows it to a brand new person who's never even heard of it, right? Are they going to click on it? Or are they going to buy it? And that there are other titles that are doing, twice as well as we are. Maybe that where we're looking at them and we're like, okay,
what's the difference?
What's the difference?
Yeah.
And it looks to be, again, that comes back to this question of genre. So that's kind of where we're parking it, I guess, for now. But like we got a few more analyses going to.
Yeah. And of course, the only way you would truly know that is like, let's say like we made How Many Dudes the Auto Battler and somebody else made How Many Dudes the card game and somebody else made How Many Dudes the RTS or
but
whatever.
Also, somehow all else was equal and the only thing that was different.
Somehow all else equal. We all launched on the same day and somehow didn't compete.
And the graphics felt the same.
Yep. So it's like only then could you really say like, here's the effect of genre, but there's
but
no
also genre is
possible.
not a clean concept, There's like
exactly.
It's not even a real thing. It's just a vibe, right?
Yep.
And
it's the whole thing's dirty all the way through, but the data is there, and so we're kind of trying to tease apart some of these things. And again, like I said, the reason for taking this time, it's similar to actually when after Crashlands 2 launched, where even though the results are very different, right? In Crashlands 2's case, where we were like more in a state of like, well, fuck, we really got to change a lot of how we're thinking. Everything
that took too long and didn't do well enough to justify.
Yes, and we have a bit more.
And it had the exact same problem, just compounded, right? Which is again that Steam couldn't really sell it.
Yes. Right. There's to a much worse degree, actually, than like how many dudes basically sells.
It's not fair to say that Steam can't sell How Many Dudes. It's just that other games sell much better than How Many Dudes.
Yes.
And so comparable games.
Yeah. And so I guess the point is that you take some time in these post-launch states to try and figure what happened. Because if you pull too fast and you just start working on something, it's so easy to get just like zoned in on whatever the next thing is because you're now working on tasks, right?
It feels productive to be making stuff instead of just looking at things and talking about it all day.
Yeah. it is deeply uncomfortable too to like be looking around at all these bits and bobs of data, being like, at the end of the day, how do we do what we're doing a little bit better? How do we do it smarter? How can we be more efficient? Because clearly some other people are managing to do it better in these ways, right?
We talked in the past about the vibe of being a creative person is like, I don't want to have to like sift through data and use the data to decide what I'm going to do next.
This is also why I'm not on the game development team, because I love
yeah. And like I feel like
I would spend all my time doing it.
Yeah, I think between the three of us, I personally have the biggest push. Like, let's shut the fuck up and start making something.
Yeah, so it's got an itchy trigger finger for sure.
Yeah, because there's a balance to strike. Obviously, if you sit around for 3 or 4 months just talking about stuff, like you maybe could have made a whole ass game in that time, and then learned something from that as well. So that you got to keep it constrained to some level. A few weeks of analysis is still a lot of analysis. If you start getting into a month or more of analysis, maybe you got to start making some actual decisions.
Yeah, well, it's all about proportion to your. This is what R&D. What R&D is all about is proportion relative to your next investment, right?
Yeah.
Because if all you're doing is research, if you spend a year doing research and then make a game in a month,
That's too low.
Probably should have made 12 games instead.
Unless that game just fucking nails it because of that year.
Well,
That's what I'm
exactly.
trying to
Actually,
get at. It's like, that's the point, is that the tendency to as people who make things on the craft side, there's a high tendency to like overweight the action items associated with making a product as opposed to the high level conceptual bits of it, right?
Yeah. Well, importantly, making an underperforming product creates a permanent cost.
Yeah.
Like you have to maintain that thing now, right?
Yep.
Whereas like doing a fuckload of research, if it turns out that you didn't learn anything from it or you couldn't figure anything out, well, you just move on and
Well, it's
as
also
we
not
talked
just
about-
a permanent cost to have an underperforming game. It's also a permanent lost opportunity.
Yes.
Because
Yeah,
if you
because you
could
could have
have
made
made
something
something else and didn't, right? And so if you can prevent a lost opportunity, the value of that can be truly enormous, right?
Yeah.
And so,
That's
so
what
it's worth some R&D time, to try to figure out.
It is.
Yeah, and the truth is, with How Many Dudes, like that's the reason why we made How Many Dudes is because we did this, right? We were like, we need to think about shit for a little bit longer. And it was literally like
3 hours.
in that particular case, it was
In
3
that
hours
game
in that
jam,
jam.
yeah.
But like I had spent a bunch of time compounding all these notes and stuff, and we made the frameworks. Like it was a similar thing. Where like we thought about it a bunch, and then the execution window was a little bit longer before we got to that point. But yeah,
And there are multiple parts of where you're thinking about it and how much time is going in, right? Because like Sam, like you're saying, you spent a whole bunch of time working through kind of like the philosophy of the pillars of what it would mean, right?
That's what I like. I really enjoyed this part of it, which is like when after you get the data and you're like, okay, we feel like we understand some things. It's like, okay, what the fuck
or at least we have
that?
we feel like our interpretations are reasonable enough.
Yes.
That we can see if we
Do
can
the next thing.
put them into action somehow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
I like
the
that
question
conversion
is,
process.
question is, what are our interpretations? Well, we're still figuring that out. So we'll be, like Sam said, we have some ideas about genre probably informing things. And we can go and we can look at at data through Game Discover Co. and stuff like that and see, for example, that, games tagged as auto battlers, make on average like 1/4 as much money as an action roguelike, for example. So there, and you can look at different genres of game and notice these
Tendencies.
these tendencies, these big differences in both median and average income for different games. And so, that informs that there's probably some kind of an effect there, but then how that effect expresses itself and how that actually like works out on a specific game that's very difficult to.
Well, yeah, because interpretation
parse,
of those numbers, because like if you look at any two genres, right, then if one is a really high investment genre, it will have fewer games made by more competent teams.
Yeah, or if it's a genre that
right.
like AAA games tend to live in.
Yeah.
then
And they'll
it's
also
like,
pull up all of the averages, right?
they
So
won't pull up the median.
but they won't necessarily pull up the median.
Yeah.
But they'll pull up the average, right? And so so interpreting all this stuff is just, again, it's all so messy that the best you can ever walk away from it is saying like, okay, we have an interpretation that is generally consistent with what we're looking at, right?
Mhm.
And so we're not confident that it's correct. We're not confident we found the optimum, but we found something that seems to match all the patterns that we're seeing. So
Let's convert it.
can we convert that into an experiment? Can we do it?
Yeah.
Can we use that information?
But I think something that's come out of looking at all this stuff is we're coming to believe that How Many Dudes probably did nearly as well as it could have, given all the other factors. There's definitely still going to be some room there where it could have done better. But I think for what it is and for all these other factors, it did extremely well.
Yeah.
So, but this is also kind of part of a broader kind of a thing happening in the industry, which we talked about quite a while back. We're like, we think this is like the best time to be an indie developer.
Mm-hmm.
And over on How to Market a Game, what are they calling it? The Great Convergence.
Yeah.
Because we were looking at games like
the Great Conjunction, I think.
The
The alignment of what devs like to do, just make video games and not die for the process.
Yeah.
Players enjoying these smaller games, and the fact that this is like all coming together in a way where on Steam where they can be discovered, right?
Yeah. And so this kind of, I feel like, to me, like from my own personal understanding of stuff, to me, like Vampire Survivors kind of kicked off this like light bulb moment of like, wow, this game doesn't look that good in terms of like visual quality and polish and stuff.
Or at least it's not the kind of
Um,
game that when you look at it, you would expect to sell 100,000 copies in a second.
Yeah.
Right.
But it did, right? And then when you buy it and you play it, you're like, oh, I see. Like this is, you just sit down, you just start playing, and it's just fun right away, right? And then like games like Brotato and then Balatro, which to me is like it's a much more polished thing, but it's still in that camp of like it's a tightly scoped game that has a specific premise. And it delivers exactly on that premise, and it doesn't go further than that. There's no like story mode and cutscenes and whatever else. It's just, it is what it is.
It's a game.
Yes. And it's the type of game where it doesn't cost that much. You can pick it up and learn it very quickly. You can play it for 20 hours or more. But also, if you've played it for 10 hours, you still had a great time. And you feel like you got your money's worth, right?
Yeah. But the part that is still so confounding about this like phenomenon that was kicked off, right, is the top of funnel part,
Yes.
right? Because there are tons of other games on Steam that basically look similar in terms of like, if you're just like looking at marketing assets, right, that would look similar to something like Vampire Survivors, right? But those don't take off, and people can't know that the game is super fun to play until they've played it. So how is the top of funnel working for this category of game? And that's ultimately where we are so extremely uncertain about, like,
yeah. And it seems to be some kind of a combination of like the pitch, the theme of the game, the appeal of like, what's the fantasy of the game, and is it actually like delivering on that? And then how does all that marry into the genre of the game? And we're also looking at, for example, like Sir, We Have an Orc Problem came out a couple days before How Many Dudes. They're doing incredibly well. They know, I think, a 4-month dev cycle. And just like the game, they are billions, or Vampire Survivors. Basically, the pitch for the game is, look how much shit there is. look at, there's a lot.
Awesome. Yeah.
There's a lot of enemies. That's kind of like the pitch. And then, and that's just always appealing. It's just always appealing.
Yep.
And so if you can do, but it's hard to execute on technically, just from an optimization standpoint. And so, which is why it's appealing in games, because it doesn't happen that often in games, actually. It's just hard to pull off. And so there's all these interesting things happening where these indie games will pop up. They'll be like, here's the exact like thread that we're pulling on. That like tickles your brain. And then the game just hits exactly that thing, no more, no less, and does it really well. And it finds an audience. And so on How to Market a Game, they're calling it, would you say, the
week of the Great Conjunction, basically, which is, or the
golden
week of,
the week of the golden age is the name. There you go.
Yeah,
week of the golden age.
Yeah, so Chris Zukowski has a 3-part sort of series of articles about the week of the golden age, because the week that How Many Dudes came out was, like I said, Sir, We Have an Orc Problem came out a couple days before. They're doing incredibly well. They've sold a couple 100,000 units, and the game that came out in between those two was Bills Must Be Paid, where you're just you're smashing piggy banks to get money to pay your bill. Like you're dipping into your savings to pay your bills. And there's these like piggy banks walking around, and you're just like smashing the shit out of them with a hammer. And that game did incredibly well. And there's
the audience overlap is actually very little between these 3 games, which is also crazy, because like they kind of feel like the same scope, like they're smaller things that are kind of roguelike and weird and fun, and
but there aren't people playing all 3 of these games, right? It's different somehow, and they're all being shown on Steam at the same time in the same places, right? All of them are hard. I guess collectively, it's like not obvious that like any of these games would be like, that would resonate, that somehow like take off in a big way, right? And somehow they all took off in like similarly scaled ways, with fully separate audiences while being on Steam at the same time, right?
Fascinating, right?
It's very
crazy. So we have all kinds of theories about like, what are these games really, in terms of like how is a player thinking about it? Because there's AAA games that are these massive experiences, like, and the type of thing that GTA 6 is. That is not what Bills Must Be Paid is. They're just not even. They don't occupy even remotely the same space in a person's mind in terms of why you would buy them, what type of experience you're looking for. And there's a lot of kind of general complaints that or grumblings in the industry over the past few years about this idea of the games market, it looks like it's a certain size, but actually it's much smaller than that because individual players get locked into a specific game. Maybe you got the League of Legends players and they just play League of Legends, and you got your World of Warcraft players and they play, and you got your Fortnite players.
The games market is huge, but the market of gamers that you can sell a game to,
as an indie
in particular,
yes,
is a tiny subset of the quote unquote games market.
Yeah, and so what I think is happening is, and it's like back when we worked on Crashens 2. We were kind of using the same sorts of benchmarks that these bigger studios use, which is like, okay, we have this like big story. We're like going for visual polish and quality.
Trying to say, okay, we need to up the immersion stuff, which is just so expensive.
World building and immersion.
If we can deliver on that, then we will be able to deliver a game that people want more of, and then that will make it so that the game is worth doing that for.
Because you're kind of thinking about, like, if you're competing on the same terms as a AAA game, which is world building, immersion, visual quality, storytelling, all that stuff, then now you're forcing players to make a choice. Like, hey, this other game that you normally play that you've invested a lot of time in, learning and mastering and blah blah blah, we want you to like pry yourself away from that and like now learn this new game, this new story, this new world, invest a bunch of time into this thing, and that's a very difficult pitch to make. But with, I think, a lot of these smaller games like How Many Dudes and Sir We Have an Orc Problem, Everything is Crab, like whatever, the pitch is very different, which is, hey, like if you're bored this weekend of the game that you're normally playing, just jump into this thing for a few hours. It'll be just like,
did you just finish another smaller game? Here's another one that's fucking amazing. It's like they're all like really good at delivering on whatever
it's the idea that the people who will buy that tiny subset of the games market who will buy indie games, right, are people who buy indie games. Like they're not trying to buy an indie game.
Yes, their hobby is playing.
Their hobby is gaming.
Yeah,
plural, and so
they're not looking for one game to dominate their time because they already have that in spades from other possible sources. And I think about it too, where like as somebody who dips in and out of World of Warcraft and has done so for 22 years, right? Like the times when I buy games is the downtime in between seasons, right? Like at the early, like the first half of a WoW season, which is like a 3-month window, I'm playing a lot of World of Warcraft. Then as things kind of settle and, we've kind of like seen most of the content and my raid team is like chilling out, then my time opens up and I'm like, well, I don't want to start playing a game that demands I treat it like I treat World of Warcraft because I can't. I've got my main game, right? I'm looking for a snack. Just something I can just enjoy.
I do wonder if part of this too is like, this rise of the friend swap stuff over the last couple of years, basically kind of like paralleling this, or even being in some ways like an undercurrent that somehow is now very, very visible, which is that a lot of times people jump from one of those games to whatever the next one is, right? Because again, they're just cool experiences that you get to have with your friends. It'd be like going to, see a movie altogether or something like that, and then talking about it afterwards.
Well, there's an important leveling that happens there too, right? Because there are categories of games that I like in theory, right? Like your Back for Blood style, like co-op shooter game, right? And the reason, like, I love Left 4 Dead 2 or Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2, two of my favorite games of all time, and one of the main reasons for that is it's extremely flat experientially between two players, right? Like, you're not supposed to play the game forever, so there's not a curve you're working your way up to like level up and do all this other kind of stuff, which means you could drop in and play with any other random person at any time, and they might be way better than you at the game, but you're going to have basically the same kind of experience that you would have had.
Left 4 Dead is the OG friend swap.
That's the OG friend swap.
It is, yeah. That's true.
Which is basically like, it's not designed to keep you there, it's designed to give you a really good experience with your buddies, right?
Yeah.
And
without a massive tutorial, without having to learn all the strats. And,
it doesn't. It just doesn't ask very much of you, and then gives you a really good time. But then again, still you can still get really good at it. You could still play it indefinitely, and people do, right? But it's not really
all the friends up games, right? They all the big ones still have plenty of people playing them, individually. But I feel like you do see then this tendency for people to like get whatever the next one is because it's cool. You're like, oh, it's like a whole different take on the friends up thing. Whether this is
where the game is
or whatever.
The game isn't the point. The game is something that is fun that delivers on some kind of a promise for you to enjoy with people, right? In the case of like the friend swap category.
Honestly, if we're thinking about Valve games, I'd say Portal falls into this category of like small, tightly scoped game.
Yep.
It is, yeah.
Where it's like, it just does one thing and it does it incredibly well, which is like, look at this cool ass portal gun.
Yeah.
There's nothing else.
How long? No kinds of
like
weapons.
6 hours,
It's not long. It's under
12 hours.
depending on how your brain works, right? Like how fast you could solve the puzzles. But yeah, it's like a sub 10-hour game.
Actually, it is weird, right? Like, at what point did we decide, like,
that you have to play games for fucking
a game
ever?
is supposed to be 60 hours of
it was in the mid 2010s, I think, easily. That was when the decision happened because that was what was happening.
Once free to play started popping up, then it's like
because that's what's required.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
Yeah,
because even like Half-Life 2, right, is like a 12-hour game.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Many games that of the past that are like, wow, this is one of the greatest games of all time.
More importantly, they continue to sell like hotcakes, right?
Yeah,
like they
because
continue to sell.
it's from an era of a game being a complete experience that's meant to be played start to finish. And I think what's interesting about the indie stuff is it's mostly roguelike mechanics, which is not that. It's not like play a game start to finish and be done with it. It's play a game until you're
tired of it.
Just till you're tired of it, which will oftentimes happen around between the 5 and 10 hour mark. Every now and then, people will really get into it, and then they'll not suddenly, but over time, dunk 200 hours into it or whatever. But by and large, and I think about like one of my favorite roguelikes that I played somewhat recently was Magicraft.
Yeah, so fun.
And I just played it for like a whole weekend without stopping, and then I was just completely done with it.
Yep.
Like I haven't thought about it since, and I don't regret it for a second. I had a great time. It's a crazy fucking game. And so I think something that we're kind of like slowly getting through our thick skulls is this idea that as indies we have to recognize the space that we are equipped to occupy in the market, which is like being those games where somebody can pick it up, get 5 to 20 hours, and it's just a really great experience, and they enjoy it, and then they go back to their Fortnite or whatever it is,
or
right?
they just go pick up the next
or they pick up the next one. And so, as we're looking at how many dudes, we're like, we probably went too hard.
Probably did a little more than we needed to be honest.
Yeah, and of course, we're still doing a 1.1 update and adding even more stuff because we can't fucking help ourselves.
Well, because we have other questions, Yeah, we got experience.
Well, but it's also because like we're not doing this. We're doing this as our jobs and our careers, right? But we're not doing this specifically to generate as much revenue as possible.
Well,
we want to figure out.
This comes back to the creative side of it.
Yeah,
right?
it's like
it's just fun to do this stuff.
Yeah, and it's fun to try to figure out the design problems, and it's fun to make a thing that's received really well, and it's fun to make a thing that a person can go play as a hobby, right? That's delightful and very cool, right? And so,
I think it's increasingly the case that what we're realizing is that we don't have to do those things, which was the orientation we had for literally the last 10 years, which was like if we cannot make something that someone can play for literally like 6 hours, then the chances of it being a thing that will actually be successful are low, and start slowly realizing that like probably these are just decoupled concepts, so we don't have to. You don't have
but also
to
there's kind of a cap to it too, because like we had people put hundreds of hours into the demo of How Many Dudes. So the idea that like we needed to add not just 10 new dudes or whatever, we had 25 new dudes on top of the original 17, thinking that like that's going to be the thing that like makes the game reach its ultimate potential, when really we probably didn't need to go that hard on it.
No, definitely not.
Need to, but
I'm glad we did because
I like all the dudes
yeah.
that are in the game. I think it's
we had a great time.
As a thing that we made that we can be proud of, that we also just think is a really good game. The difference between like what we had in the demo and what we have at launch is the kind of thing that like I want our studio to be making. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we gotta find the marriage between what we should do based on our data, and what we like to do.
And try to make sure we're not, because it's really easy to fall into a trap in any direction. You know, where you're like, oh look, we can just like make a tiny game that you can only play for 5 hours. When it's up to your point, like the demo version of the game, you could already play for 100 hours, right? So it's not about playtime either, right? It's about what is the game. It's a scope. Delivering, and what does scope even mean, right? And are we, and then we have the two questions is it delivering enough in the right ways, et cetera, so that people will buy it, right? And is it delivering in ways that we also just really like what it was that we made, and we get to put it into our growing portfolio as a publisher of games, where we can like pick any one of the games out of there and be like, hell yeah, we nailed that game. So
it's the same thing. It's like with Crashlands too. It's like the game is ridiculous in terms of just, in my opinion, how much stuff is in there, how good it is, how like crazy interconnected.
It's an extremely good game.
It's extremely good, and it's like probably though really didn't have to go that hard. Apparently, you know, literally the feedback oftentimes.
Well, I think the problem is based on the type of game that it is. We did have to. You know, because like the biggest complaint about the game was that there wasn't enough stuff in it when we launched it, right?
Right, but I mean, in terms of like everything about that game, about Crashlands 2, is designed to literally go harder, like on the art, on the sound, like then every aspect.
We didn't need to go that hard into those aspects.
Correct.
Yeah,
and it was the biggest complaint, but it wasn't a big complaint, right?
That's true.
And the thing is, like when there are people who, because when we're looking at these other, because we're talking about all this, we're like, yeah, you don't have to make that big of a game and stuff, but when we look at these other games that we're kind of talking about here that didn't go like 1,000 miles into it the way we did with How Many Dudes, right? Then it is the most common complaint you see across the board is,
I want more game.
I want more game, and maybe this wasn't worth the price point because of how much game there is, right? Because there's a subset of the player base who buys games, right? Where that same idea that got embedded into our brains as developers of like what we're selling is hours of gameplay, right? Is also embedded into their brains. And so it's something that we have to decide if we're going to accept or not.
Well, I think it's more
it's just like, oh, we'll just be okay with that particular complaint.
Well, I think we're also recognizing that we could still get essentially dozens of hours of gameplay. We don't have to shoot for hundreds of hours of gameplay. That's fine. It's a fine line to draw at, like, you know,
but I think your point, like this is like a poisoning that we got from free to play, right? Because even if I think back when we were working on Crashlands 2, like what was, and then we were like talking to the Apple and Google and Xbox. We're talking to everybody about the game. What is the question the only question they want the answer to?
How many hours of content is there in this?
How many hours of content is there?
How does
what's your day 30 retention going to look like? All this kind of stuff, right?
Every single one of them. Yep.
Yeah, and so much of what drove us to the shape of what Crashlands 2 was to be able to have the evidence when we said people can play this game for so long, right? And
you're right. I think it's been a weird brain worm that's been stuck in there for a very long time.
Yeah, but especially then, like once, because now free to play, that's how it works, right? But then also it was the next thing: subscriptions. How do subscriptions pay out?
Playtime,
right? And so part of what's happening here is that Steam is the one it's the one place that those don't come into account.
Yeah,
Valve doesn't send you an email being like, "We were thinking about featuring your game, but like, how much playtime is there?" In this thing?
They'll feature a game that you can play for an hour.
Valve is like, "Will people buy this? We'll put it." All right, that's it. That's all they care about. So we're kind of wrapping our heads around all these questions, and when it comes to the next game, like how hard in the paint should we go? How hard in the paint do we want to go? Because we're kind of like, what's the balance between those two things? And like we were talking about earlier, how does genre affect things? If we took the concept of How Many Dudes and apply that to a different genre, if we made a How Many Dudes tower defense game, or a How Many Dudes survivor style game, or whatever, an RTS, I don't know.
We just baseline see more success.
Yeah, and because all these things come down to how does the shape of this game interact with the Steam audience? Because at the end of the day, that's where you're going to sell that's where you're going to make most of your money. And so, yeah, I don't know. We're just
There's a lot of thoughts going on.
Yeah, a lot of brain scrambles happening.
Yeah.
So for the last little bit of this episode, we just wanted to respond to a couple of comments / questions that we liked from our most recent episode about updating games post-launch, because that's on our mind a lot as well.
Mhm.
So the first note we got was a YouTube comment from Dead Medic, who said, something I think you guys missed in this conversation about updates from our last episode, is how to go about achievements. Whether you see adding new achievements in a post-launch update or DLC as a good thing or a bad thing. Some players don't care about achievements at all. DLCs and updates without achievements or some other carrot on a stick FOMO thing risks maybe that the update being ignored. So if people do care about it, and then you're like, well, there's no new achievements, so who gives a crap, right? Some completionists will buy the DLC just to then go and get the 100% of the game. But then you also have the opposite, which is people will complain that they no longer have 100%.
And that they can't get 100% unless they buy something.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even if it's an update, like they were done with the game and now they're like, well, I got to go back and play it. And I don't want to, which is a hilarious mindset to me. But I know I have to play this video game that I don't want to play to get something that isn't real. So then, so the comment kind of goes on, but it's just kind of the idea of like, how do you think about this idea? Because actually we're going to run into this with How Many Dudes. I know we are, because our unlock system has stuff at the very end, right? So once you get 100% of the silver stars, the gold stars, whatever, that's when you get that final reward, the loaded dice or whatever the case may be. So if we add new dudes,
right,
question is,
shove them into that system, which means everyone's bars go from 100% to not 100% anymore. Or
right.
do we do something
Or do
else
we add
change
more
it?
bar or
add more unlocks?
and achievements related to those? Now you're further away from. I'm not sure what achievements we have. But
well, if you already had them, you'll still have them.
yeah. But if you don't, you've
But
now
if you were like
lost
one
progress,
thing
right?
away, then now the end of the bar
Right, you're like,
moves.
I almost discovered all the dudes. And we're like 7 more dudes. You're like, God damn it.
Yeah, and this is always the push-pull, right? Because like people will be like, give us more content, and then you add the content, like, but I don't want to do the content, right? Which is what you would say if you didn't want to have to like finish the progress bar or whatever. And so, we always joke internally about how like human beings are hilarious because they always, in all scenarios, simultaneously demand change and hate change.
It's that comic book of the dog, right? Where it's like,
no take, only throw.
No take, only throw. Yes.
Yeah. I have my strong opinion about achievements is that they are a curse and a mistake. Platform level achievements.
As a global system,
should never have existed. Should
Hell
stop
yeah,
existing. That's my sort of big picture position.
But why?
I actually,
so
and
fun.
then on Steam, really on any platform, I also don't really think achievements matter in the sense that, like, yeah, there are people. That's true. There are people who will be like, ooh, does this game have a lot of achievements I can get quickly? I'm going to go buy that game. There are people who'll be like, ooh, does this DLC give me more achievements I could get? I'm going to go buy that DLC. That's true. Those people do exist. I don't believe they make up any kind of a significant fraction of the player base.
Do
on
you
these
have to
things.
have achievements when you launch on Steam?
I don't think Steam even requires it. I don't think.
Well, maybe we don't do that next
well,
time.
the thing is, there will be. I would say
But achievements are fun, though. Like, I like having an achievement pop up when something happens. Like, to me, achievements are a fun way to communicate with a player. Right. At a
To
platform
say,
level.
ooh, I see what you did there.
Yeah,
or to
when you
say, hey,
have,
if you try this.
when you get to use them, like, to do that. The problem comes with platform-specific cultural behavior around achievements and expectations around them, which I think are mostly toxic and bad.
Yes.
And there's no, like Seth was describing earlier, there's no way to just win with
Yes,
achievements.
there's no winning play. You have to make a choice.
Because
here.
either they have to be available to everybody so achievement hunters can get their 100% and stop whining, right? Or they have to mean something so that people can feel like they accomplished something, right? And So now, so either all of it to be available to everybody as quickly as possible. None are allowed to, you're not allowed to do anything fun, like be like, hey, if you play the game on Halloween, you can, like,
Right.
because now I got to go play the game on Halloween. How dare you, right? So they don't get to be fun because of achievement hunters. And as soon as that's true, then you have to decide, do I care what they think or not? Right.
Yeah.
And if you do, okay, now this is just, now you're playing a different kind of a game. You're not making it to serve the game. You're not making
I
it to
think
serve
you
players.
you basically have to make them for people who approach them in a way that is frankly a healthy way to approach them, which is as a fun thing that they could do if they want.
Yes.
And if you try to do anything else, then you're just gonna be.
If you try to use them to create incentives, if you try to use them to satisfy one group but not piss off this group,
Well, I mean,
it's
be kind of upset.
just a loss.
What I like about achievements from a development perspective is we were able to do stuff, for example, in How Many Dudes, we made achievements for winning the game with specific team combinations.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And what that basically allows for is it lets us force a player to break out of their current mindset of how they're thinking about the game and learn and really learn the game in a new way.
Yeah.
Right. So we're like, oh yeah, here's this team, like the big pumpers achievement is one of the lowest completed ones. But that's the one which is, here's these 5 damage dealers. No healing, no tanking, just dealing damage. Win the game with this team.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people will come in and be like, this is impossible. I don't understand. You have to have healing. And you don't.
Mm-hmm.
We tested all these achievements internally, and there are all kinds of strategies that you can employ. So some people, they give a medical license to one of their damage dealers and turn them into a healer. To me, that's the coward move. That's the coward's way out, because the point of the achievement is, screw healing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like my strategy is just go all in on damage as much as possible.
So just end the fight before you can die.
Just kill everything, right? If everything's dead before, if their HP reaches 0 before your HP reaches 0, you win, right?
Yeah. Don't let anybody get a shot off. That's the strategy.
Yeah. So, and that's what I did. And it worked for me. Like the first time I tried it even. And so there's all these different ways that we can use achievements to force players into a new angle on gameplay.
Encourage people into.
Yes.
No, it's forced. You have to do achievements. I don't know if you do this, but yeah, if you don't do achievements, you get banned from Steam.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the deal or to the update, we don't add achievements for updates. We haven't in the past.
We have in the past. We honestly we may want to for this one, because we have achievements for like each dude family. And if for example we added a new, because we said we were going to add some new dudes.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily know whether we're going to add a new dude family, but if we did, then we would add an achievement for that. We also have like a new challenge mode we're working on. It may warrant an achievement, but like you said, we've never
I'm just
done
thinking
that before. But
yeah, we could. I think the interesting thing about an update is that updates are for the existing player base, and so it does make some sense to provide more.
Adds more achievements in.
Yeah,
because
more
it's part of the
achievements.
content, depending on how you design it and everything.
Right? But I think again, you could similarly, just depending on what you want to do as a dev. Again, no matter what you do, people are going to be mad at you.
Oh yeah,
So you
just make the game better, make it more fun, and people are going to want either.
Just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It
If we, for example, if we just like extend the unlock bars, people are going to be upset because they're like, I got more stuff to unlock.
Yep.
Some people are going to be like, hell yeah, now I've got more dudes to play with.
Yep.
Like it's going to go.
You get both.
Or even just the fact that we're adding this challenge mode. We're going to have people who are like, yes, like what I wanted was like a harder. I wanted a more challenging gameplay experience, and this delivers that. Thumbs up. And you got other people who say, well, now there's this new progress bar that I'm supposed to fill up by playing on challenge mode, and it's too hard and I don't like it, and I was just playing this game to have fun, and I don't want it to be hard. Thumbs down, right? So every change is going to create a mixed reaction somehow.
Unless you're fixing a problem that everybody agrees is a problem. Right.
Which is usually just a bug.
Yeah, which is usually a bug.
And sometimes still not actually.
Yeah. We're laughing because we talked about going into the negative reviews, how a common thread in many of the negative reviews is like, oh, the game's too easy. Right. However, in our Discord every day, numerous people come in being like, this is impossible. I don't know how to beat this game. I can't figure this out. Right.
And also that's what our analytics show. Is that
statistically it's not too hard.
It's a hard game for most people at least when they first start, right?
Yeah.
And I think of it, to me, it's also actually hard. It's an easy game to play. but it's a hard game to
hard to
play.
master.
And I still to this day I played now dozens and dozens of hours of How Many Dudes. I think I played like 100 hours on my phone. So I played a lot of it, and to this day I still lose like a third of my tier 1 runs.
Yeah, which is the easiest tier,
which is
right?
the easiest one.
Yeah, and so and we're also laughing about how if you look at games like Everything is Crab or Sir We Have an Orc Problem, the negative reviews are often people just being, it's not long enough. The game's too short. But then you'll have other games where people are like, game's too long, right? So, there's no such thing as the game that has the perfect length, the perfect difficulty
for everybody.
And if you add more content, add more difficulties, do any of these things, that just changes the shape of those aspects of the game in different ways. And some people are going to like it and some people won't.
Yeah, I will say the most contentious thing you will ever do as a dev is update your game. To be honest.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Giving a free update will almost inevitably, whenever you do it, you'll be like, wow, that's like a time I just had. Because it's not, you're thinking of it as like a positive thing, because you're like, wow, I'm going to spend literally thousands of dollars, in the case of a studio, making more content for players to give them,
or hundreds of thousands even
for free.
Well, I'm confident. But, I am extremely confident that we're going to get a big surge of negative reviews when we update the game, because there's a strategy that people are using where they take a bunch of general dudes, stack them onto one pirate dude, and then put a bunch of time dudes next to the pirate dude. I won't get into details of why this matters, but it basically lets you just instantly win.
Yeah, and it's very fun. I deployed it myself because I've never beat a tier 2 round. Again, like I'm terrible at this game.
Yeah,
and I don't play it for challenge because I'm playing this just to fuck around while I'm like lounging on the couch at night. But I saw that strategy come out and I was like, ooh, I can actually maybe use this and see if I can go actually like even see the Killipede in tier 2 because I'd never even like fought it. And yeah, it was. I did the strategy, worked the first time.
It just works. You just win. You just win.
And it was super fun to do that, once. But if I was the kind of person who was like, oh, okay, so now I can like clear all these, I could complete all of these things. Now
optimize this game in the most boring way possible.
Yeah, now
now every run is the same, right? And so the thing is, like, we're gonna in 1.1, we're gonna make some updates so that strategy doesn't work like that. It'll still have some strengths to it. But
you can still do it. You can't just do it to the same degree.
Yeah, because I'm going to make a bold statement. The goal of making this game wasn't to make it so that you can win without doing literally anything at all in all scenarios with no risk. The point was to have some challenge and make you think and try interesting things. If there's an I win button that just takes you straight to the end of the game every single time, no matter what, then why does the game exist, right? However, we will get a surge of negative reviews by patching that. We just will. So I'm okay with it. I got no problem.
I think this is why it's always a mixed bag with all this stuff, right? It's like it's very tricky when you're making the thing to then like disentangle the fact that like some portion of people who you're making it for will be very mad about like oftentimes very specific parts of it, small parts of it, but that'll color the whole update experience for them, right? So I think part of our bet with the shape of the update is by including those additional dudes. Basically, and overwork, like basically reworking a bunch of dudes that people are complaining about.
Yeah, we're going to boost up some weaker dudes. We're not just going to like, oh, we've just nerfed the guaranteed win strat, and that's the whole update.
Exactly. It's mostly buffs across the board, frankly. For most dudes. But there'll be a bunch of reworks. There'll be new dudes, and because of those things all put together, the whole meta shifts enough that hopefully the people are like,
everything's going to shift.
Yeah, everything's going to shift.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah. So let's cap off this episode. We got one final sort of a comment, which we found amusing from our update episode, where a lot of what we talked about in that episode was about cutting your losses. Right.
You can't update a game to greater success.
Yeah. If a game does not have an audience and you are deploying updates, you are deploying updates to no one, and it's very, very unlikely that that's going to change the fate of the game and convert it from a flop to a success, right? So we got a comment from Abismo W on YouTube who said, Don't update unless the game's already selling well. I second this. Years ago, I launched a game that sold way less than I expected. Because of Moonhunter's GDC talk, because of the just try whatever pops into your mind to check if it actually works advice a lot of devs give, and because players say the better the game, the more I will buy it. I decided to fix my game until its sales increased. I have no words to describe how much I regret those 18 months I wasted in those updates nobody gave an F about, instead of releasing 2 to 3 more games, not to mention the burnout, depression, and damage to my confidence I got. I learned that unless it has a critical bug, leave it as is and just move on. And honestly, even then, if nobody's playing it and there's a critical bug, just, I don't know.
Yeah. The bug, I guess the bug is not the problem. And this is kind of what we've been talking about, right? Which is like your problem, if your game is not selling well, your problem is so much higher up than the game already, right? It's the concept.
It's the core
genre,
premise.
The whole thing.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah, it is, you're not throwing a baby out with the bathwater at that point. You're just,
the shitty thing about this
it's either
is,
all of it, or it's that it never got the visibility opportunity it needed, right? Because even taking like How Many Dudes, right? Given like how much better other games are at being sold by Steam, right? Because even like right now we're looking at the tail of How Many Dudes, and we're comparing that to the Orcs game, and since they're public about their numbers, right? So we can say stuff about it.
Yeah,
we'll probably. I won't get into any like real details, but like in the like tail here, like 3 weeks out, right? They're outselling us by like 2 to 1.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Daily units.
They're definitely gonna sell more units than us long term.
Yeah, eventually.
It's fair to say.
And then if we go look at our Steam traffic, like what sources of traffic, like what's going on in the past couple of weeks, right? Then our biggest source of traffic for people visiting the How Many Dudes store page is people searching for it. Right? That's not Steam being like, hey, maybe you would like this game. That's people who are like, hey, I've heard of this game and I'm interested.
Yes.
Let me go to Steam and find it, right?
This is what we mean when we say our game is not actually as sellable as Sir, We Have an Orc Problem.
It's shareable via YouTube and other means, but within Steam, it's actually not
it's
very
somehow
well.
sellable. So, but that means that if we had, like, let's say we made How Many Dudes, basically like up to the demo version roughly, right? Back when we launched the demo. But at that point, we only had, it's in the timeline. At that point, we had like, what, a couple thousand.
We had 7,000 wish lists when we launched the demo.
Right, 7,000 wish lists, which isn't terrible, but that's not enough to spike us into like Steam top sellers, like any of the lists that we would appear in for visibility. So if we had launched the game at that time onto Steam, we would not have caught any mechanism that shows the game to people, right? And this is why this is also so frustrating and challenging, is because you can never, unless you know you got visibility and then nobody bought it.
Yes. Then you have no way to know whether or not.
Then you can't tell. Is it because nobody? Because the top of the funnel is actually mechanisms that give you visibility, right? That's actually what the top of the funnel is. Mm-hmm. But those aren't free. You have to do something. You have to get in there. There's gatekeepers. Mm-hmm. You have to like get somebody to show it to their YouTube audience or get Steam to show it to people, whatever. And the question is did I fail there because of what the game is, or because of how I marketed it and what I did, right? Right. And that's the hardest part of the whole puzzle, because once you don't have any visibility, then it might, like, your game might be great. It actually might be a sellable game, right? It just never got
caught
shown to people.
Yeah.
And so then it doesn't matter that it could sell.
Yeah.
But you need, the short of it is you need some way of selling your game, whether it's because, again, in our case with How Many Dudes, YouTube and external factors are going to be the reason why the game continues to sell in the tail. Not Steam, actually. We can already see, at least not to the same degree as some of these other games. Some of the other games are not going to have the same level of external traffic coming in, so it's fine. It's like there's multiple mechanisms where you can still be using Steam to sell your game, right? At the end of the day, it's just whether you're bringing some audience in or if Steam's providing a good matching service, right? But one of those ways of selling more of your game is not doing an update. Is the point, right? It's just that doesn't address the parts of the funnel where the loss is happening, right?
Yeah, I think the bummer about this is no matter how many times somebody tells you this, you will not believe it.
It's hard to believe.
I mean, because we went through this with Levelhead, where it was just like how do you square having overwhelmingly positive reviews and like exactly delivering on what you were trying to do, with the fact that, you know, you could spend tens of thousands of dollars on ads. You can pay streamers or YouTubers to play it. You can keep putting it in front of people over and over and over again, and they just will not buy it. They just like we dropped the price to $5. Didn't matter. You know, from 20 down to 5, didn't change anything. We did a 99-cent sale. We did all these things, and it's just so hard to accept that just almost nobody wants this thing.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't
It's
matter
hard to
that it's
accept.
really good.
Yeah, and it's hard to accept because, you know, because you finished it before you found that out. Which is
and you're just like, I
that's
mean,
the
it's
worst
done. Like,
part.
all I have to do is just, I gotta figure out the messaging. I gotta figure out.
I got massage it a little bit. And
We have what do we have?
like
Like 3 or 4 different trailers for Levelhead, because we kept trying different styles of trailer.
And focusing on different, because also the
you
game's
know.
doing a lot, right? So we're trying to focus on like, okay, well,
Maybe
focus
we picked
on
the
the
wrong
level
part.
building, focus on the puzzle,
It
on the
didn't
platform.
matter. None of it
focus on-
mattered.
Yeah. Just,
Yeah.
just couldn't
And
sell it.
so there's this idea you get in your head where you're just like, that can't be right. Like when I play this game, I'm having fun, and the people who are playing it are having a great time. You just got to find just the magic word, the magic phrase, or whatever, the box art, something. And then bam, it's just the floodgates are gonna open. People are gonna see this game for what it is and come in. And the fact is, they do see it for what it is, and they just don't like it. They just don't want it.
There are times, there are places where you can, like, you could push it up, but it's all percentages. It's not multipliers, right?
Well,
so like we can improve. We have some theories about like a few things that we can just change around a little bit in terms of like screenshot ordering and like what to show in some of those contexts where people are going to be before they get to the store page, essentially, to make it more likely that they go check it out, right? But those are just going to be percentage points improvements on what we're doing. They're not going to put us into
like single digit percentage.
Yeah, it's not going to be like, oh, now it's 2x. Now it's actually operating on the same level as some of these other games, right? In the tail. Now it's like 2 times units. No, we got no illusions that that's going to happen based on like wiggling some shit around, updating some videos. But I mean, like you could do a few things together to maybe pump it up like, I don't know, 20% or something like that.
But importantly, like, none of that is updates. You know, like if you put a bunch of time into updates, you know, and even looking at, you know, I not to disparage, sir, we have an orc problem, but it's a little unpolished.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a little unpolished.
Yeah.
Visually, it doesn't matter. You know, like if they updated the game to have like a shinier UI, I bet that would make no difference on
Well,
sales.
it might, because we don't know if they're performing like at the bottom of what's possible or at the top of what's possible, right? And it might be depending on what that range is for the kind of game.
It might be that more polish would actually pay off for them.
Yeah,
right?
it might.
Potentially, I guess. Yeah,
But
I guess
that's the
I guess
challenge
it's-
is you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't know if there's because the other thing that can happen too is like they're trying to add some polish to it and so on, but the changes they make could make it so that now whatever it is that people see and are like, hell yeah, I want that, right? They don't see it anymore.
Yeah, that's the worst. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and the thing
so-
is, like we mentioned, like we're gonna be updating how many dudes. We're gonna be adding some stuff to it.
Well, and importantly, part of the bid there though is recognizing that our external traffic is what causes a lot of our tail sales. So the idea is if we add content that we can re-engage our streamer people with, then we might be
that's
able
the
to
whole
have a
model.
push.
The whole model is that it's
Yeah.
this update is for re-engaging the top of the funnel basically on YouTube.
Yeah.
yeah,
right.
but
External
the thing is, we also know that this comes at a great cost, right?
Yeah.
To produce this new content, and for example, when our 2-week launch sales period ended, we lost 2/3 of our daily unit sales, right? So the implication there is by putting the game on sale, we triple our sales numbers. Yeah, we triple our unit sales.
We're making an update triple.
We're making an update triple our unit sales.
Yeah,
Almost
no,
certainly
absolutely
not,
not. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like the one thing we can do is just click a button on the Steam backend, and that triples our sales.
Yes.
If we put in the next 2 months making this 1.1 update and spend a ton of time and a ton of money doing that, that's not gonna triple our sales, right? But it's possible that it slightly fattens the tail.
Well, I guess it's
in the
possible
long term,
that
maybe?
it allows us to get the external attention to do something like triple our sales, but it's not. All of that is a chain of things that may or may not happen, not like a button. You
Yeah,
press in the
well,
back.
but importantly, it's because there already are people playing the game, right?
Correct.
So if there was nobody playing the game,
It would
because
not
nobody cared about it, and then we we added more dudes, right?
Yeah.
It's not gonna that would change nothing. So again, it kind of comes back to that. You can potentially update a game that is doing well to improve its performance, but a game that nobody cares about, the problem is so far upstream with the core of the game, the premise of the game.
You need to move on.
You just got to move on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and it's it's all complicated too by the fact that there are some case studies out there where somebody wrote a blog post, where they're like, "Hey, I published this game and nobody bought it." Then I was like, you know what? I'm going to get people to buy it. And I worked on it for 4 years. And then suddenly it took off. Those stories exist. They are out there, right? And we also see...
This is why we always say it's unlikely.
Yeah, and we also see stories like... Because I think Blockers are a good example of like a game that already was really successful. And like anybody looking at it, like me looking at its initial launch success stuff would be like, cool. They somehow managed to nail it. They found their Steam audience. They did all of it. Then guess what? If it turns out if you get Game of the Year from a specific, large enough entity, then they can just double that. The market's twice as big as it looked like it was.
A second launch,
yeah.
basically.
Yeah. It's like when you see this kind of stuff,
There's so many people on Steam. It's insane.
There's so many people on Steam, and that muddles all of this, so that you are it is true. You never know for sure. Did I not get the audience? Did I just not have good enough? Various parts of the funnel, box art, video, whatever. Did I just not quite get that? And that's why I couldn't get the hooks and all this kind of stuff, right? But once you're post-launch, though, it's back to how much visibility can you get as a problem, right? And at base, by default, the only visibility you get on Steam, and the huge visibility you get on Steam, where all of this even matters, is launch, right?
After that, you're in the tail, baby.
After that, you're in the tail,
and
you can never go back. You can never go back to that, right? Except in those extremely rare circumstances where Steam is like, hey, here are the Game of the Year games. That's just a launch again, as far as Steam is concerned, right? But get to choose if that happens, and it won't happen.
I guess the way I'd sum it up, like mentally, is it's the shift from being like understanding what it means to make a good game, because like that used to be the frame is like you just make a good game. This is like maybe
Players say this all the time.
Yeah, midway through the 2010s, it's like all we want is a good game. And devs too were like, okay, if we just make a good game, the audience will follow. And even Zakowski, like the way it's framed is like, you need to make a good game. But recognizing, yes, that when you say make a good game, it
doesn't mean anything. It's not even advice.
Yeah, it's essentially completely inactionable. What it does not mean is to make a game that experienced like moment to moment as a player is good. That is actually not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is even higher than that. It's like make a good game that is like conceptually something that people are interested in.
Make a
before
good
you even make the
artifact.
Game. Yes, make a good cultural artifact. Make a good piece of art.
I mean, we always come back to No Man's Sky as
yes.
just a quintessential example of like their pitch was you can explore an infinite galaxy, infinite planets,
creatures that no one's ever seen.
Yeah, and in the visuals of it, it looked like that. Yeah. Like some of their early trailers were just crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
So cool.
And then when the game came out with its mixed to negative review scores, it had hundreds of thousands of mixed to negative review scores. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter that they only barely delivered on that initial pitch. Mm-hmm. The pitch was so strong that it overcame every aspect of quality. Of quality concerns for the game. And so, yeah, you could which isn't to say, don't even worry about making a good game. Right?
No,
I think you should.
Because you're not making No Man's Sky. You don't have the entire weight of Sony trying to get people to buy the game.
Yeah.
Right.
But I guess my point is that the thing you need to recognize is if it's not working, it's often not necessarily because of like the minutia of the game, which I think the problem is that when you're someone who works on it, you don't think what you're working on is minutia. Like, how does it feel when someone moves around? Turns out that's kind of minutia at the end of the day. And like, that's how you make a good game. Yes. To play. But we're talking about a good game to sell.
The annoying
and those
part
are two
is about anything that touches gameplay can't sell the game. Literally anything about what the game is doing can't sell it. right? Because you can only experience that after
Once
you
bought it. Yeah.
So the stuff, the only stuff
maybe
that can-
vicariously through a YouTube.
Sure, a demo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
there's other ways of getting
But
it.
at
there, I
that
guess,
point, like somebody had to buy the game. and start
Exactly.
playing
You
it
had to
and make
convince a
content.
YouTuber
You had to convince someone.
play it.
Yeah, 'cause people are not just waking up playing. They're not playing it all of a sudden. It's not like a short, right?
Yeah,
Where you,
and so
like,
there's a
suddenly
higher
you're seeing-
risk if then once somebody does go play it, they don't have a good time because obviously it then, right?
100%.
So
But if you get that to happen, you have crossed a Rubicon that almost no one has crossed. Like getting people to actually pay enough attention to
'cause the
bother
thing is,
booting up your fucking game.
When
right?
No Man's Sky came out, the number of videos made about how disappointing it was far outpaced the number of videos we've ever gotten for any game we've ever made, positive or
About
negative,
anything,
right? So it's like so many people bought that game. It's I can't even articulate like
unfathomable.
how many people bought that game just because the idea was so compelling. Behind it, and they didn't deliver at all. It didn't matter.
So I think the tricky bit as an indie
so-
dev then is recognizing like, okay, you do need to be good at the game making craft, but recognizing that as you get better and better at that particular aspect, you are in no way strengthening the other skill, which is considering
Getting players.
well, it's basically making a game that the market wants, right?
Yeah.
They're two completely separate skills, and it's easy to think that because you can make a game that you got that one, and you just fucking don't. And oh boy, did that take us a while to figure
Actually,
out.
no. On that
and we
point,
also know that we're still not even close.
No, we're still bad
no.
at it. It was literally when we looked up. I didn't look up median tag revenue for auto battlers until we were writing the timeline article. Now for how many dudes, and then recognized like, oh
no,
wow,
auto battlers don't really sell very well.
they don't sell on Steam at all. Like holy shit. What if
we could have picked nearly any other genre, and statistically been more likely to make
even
2,
more?
3, 4 times the number of unit sales. right?
Whoops.
Yeah, I think an interesting, given all this, an interesting note about because we're talking about how many dudes like is sold via YouTube in essence, right?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
And we're talking about how like the challenge ultimately is like marketing and getting the top of the funnel and getting people to want to do it. But also, how did we decide to go ahead with how many dudes? It was
Via
by
YouTube.
watching a streamer play it and see how much fun they had, right? And by making YouTube shorts and seeing how they, which isn't necessarily about the shape of the game, but it's about that's how we tested it.
We
and-
tested its shareability via those.
exactly,
those
and it
well,
tested
that's-
well, so we decided to make it right, which means like it was already biased towards that as being like the core marketing.
Oh,
space
100%.
for
But I think the
marketing.
important note there is like a lot of devs that talk about this. There's a lot of ways to succeed on Steam. This isn't the only.
Yeah,
the way we're doing is not the only one. It's like
and we did succeed on Steam.
exactly. This is massively successful. So the thing is, what this is saying is that you can essentially, by virtue of succeeding very well through external sources to Steam and using Steam as your selling point, do very well, right? If the game is shaped properly for YouTube, but the game being shaped properly for YouTube is not equivalent to it being shaped properly for Steam because they are two different
If you had to
audiences,
pick one,
right?
I'd probably pick Steam
Yeah.
as like.
But the problem with
yeah,
Steam,
but you can't
because
tell until you
YouTube you
fucking
can
launch.
test.
Yes.
YouTube you can
Yeah.
test
Yeah,
it. Steam
But-
you just
but
have
you
to
can-
launch it.
Well, but for Steam, you
Because
can
the
go
ideal
through the
scenario
data.
is that you get both.
Yeah,
Because when you
want
get both, that's when everything fucking explodes.
Yeah, it's a game that works well for Steam's audience and its algorithms, and a game that is shareable and works great for people to make content about. Yeah. So anyway, we've been talking about this shit for weeks now. So like, and we, like I said at the beginning of this episode, we still have barely an idea of what's going on. Right? But we're trying to make sense of it all. But yeah,
But it's important too. Is like even once you start making sense of it, that doesn't mean you end up with something actionable, right? In the sense that, like, yes, it is true that a game should be a good experience to play, but that's not advice. You know what I mean? Like that's just go do that. Just go make
Don't
the
make
game
a
good.
Don't make a game that feels
right.
bad to play.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's the same thing. Like
okay.
a game should appeal to people on Steam. So, yeah, sure. That's not right, and that's basically
Fucking
just
how? Good times.
I don't know.
Good shit.
Well, we'll see if we can. We'll see if we can figure it out for the next game. But that's all the time we have for this week's episode. We'd like to thank our producers Fat Bard and Sampa DeCosta for putting the podcast together, and thanks to our community moderators who keep our Discord running. To get more involved in the Butterscotch community, just go to podcast.bscotch.net, where we have links to the Discord, a way for you to donate to support the podcast, and links to the archives. And of course, if you haven't yet, head on over to Steam, the App Store, or Google Play and pick up a copy of How Many Dudes. We'd appreciate it. So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.